Okay, so now we're going to start to bring our profile data in through Redux, and ultimately we want to have a profile screen. Now, a profile screen is going to have a form with our user details that we can update. It's also going to show our orders, but we're going to do the orders part later on. So let's go into our front end here, not node modules, front end, and let's start with our constants. So the first thing I want to do is get the user details. So in our constants, let's copy this stuff here. And let's call this user details. So I'm going to change all of these register to details. And then we're going to go to our user reducer. And let's copy the user register reducer. And this is going to be the user details reducer. And let's change these to details and let's import them. So for user details, the initial state here, we're going to have user, which is going to be an empty object to start with. And then user details request, we're going to have loading true. We're also going to just have whatever is in the initial state, but then change loading to true. And then user details success, the user is going to get filled with the action payload. And then on fail, we're going to pass the error into the payload, or the payload into the error. So let's save that and let's go to our store.js and let's bring in user details reducer, and we're going to put that right down here. Oops. So user details. So save that. Now we should have that in our state. If we look here, we have user details. User login, good. So that user info should be null because we're not logged in. Now we want to create an action to get the current user details. So we want to hit that /API/user/profile route with a GET request. And we're going to need a token as well. We're going to pass the token along. So let's go to user actions. And in user actions, I'm going to copy, what's this last one? Register. So I'll just copy register. Paste that in. And let's change this to, we'll call this get user details. And it's going to get passed in an ID because we need to know, well, no, we don't need to pass an ID in because we're getting it from the profile. Actually, you know what we're going to do? Later on, we're going to actually have an endpoint to get a user by the ID. So I am going to pass an ID in here, but what we'll do is if we want to get the profile, we'll just pass in profile as the ID. So then down here, when we make the request, it'll be /profile, or it'll be /the user ID. So we are going to leave that there. Now we need to send a token, so I'm going to say get state here, because remember we can get our user info from get state, which has the token in it. Now here, let's say dispatch user details request, which we need to bring in. And then here at config, this is where we actually want to pass our token. So we want to pass it as authorization. Actually, we don't need quotes for this. We're going to say authorization, and we want to set this to bearer. So just like we passed with it in Postman, we're passing it here, and we're going to get the user info. So we have access to, you know what, let's actually destructure, because we have access to get state dot user login, because remember that's the part of the state that user info is in. So it'd be get state dot get user, dot user login dot user info. So I'm actually going to destructure that. let's go right here and say const and destructure from get state, which is a function. So we want to get the user login, but then we want to destructure another level, and we want to get user info, which is in user login. So that should give us access to the logged in users object. Yeah. So now here I'm going to pass in user info.token. So we should be able to pass the token in the headers, and then down here the request we want to make is going to actually be a GET request to API slash, and let's actually wrap this in backticks because it's going to be API users slash, and then whatever the ID is. Now the ID might be profile, so when we call it from the profile screen, we're going to pass in profile as the ID. We could create two separate actions, but they're so similar that we might as well just do this, so we don't have to repeat ourselves. So here, this is going to be user details success, and the payload is going to be the data that we get from this. Oh, we don't need to pass this in. So we can get rid of that. So we just want the route and then config. Get rid of this user login and this right here where we're setting local storage. We don't want that. And then let's change this to user details fail. All right, so we'll save that. So now we should be able to, in our profile screen, which we haven't created yet, we should be able to bring in the user details for the form. So I'm going to close this up, and I'm going to go into my screens, and let's create a new file here called profile screen.js, and let's generate a component here. And you know what, let's copy something else. Let's copy we'll copy register screen. So let's just replace that and change this to profile screen, and change this to profile screen. And we're going to bring in most of the stuff that we're bringing in here. We want form, button, row, column. We're going to have a table for the orders later, but we won't bring that in just yet. Use dispatch, selector, message, loader. We're not going to use a form container because we're going to have two columns. One's going to be the form, one's going to be the orders later. As far as actions, let's bring in get user details for now. And then for the state, we're going to have name, email, password, confirm password, and message. So we'll keep that. We're going to keep our dispatch. Now we want to get the user details from the state. So let's change this to details. And what we want to get from that is loading, error, and user. And let's see, we don't need this redirect. We can get rid of that. Now I am going to want to check to see if the user isn't logged in, because if they're not, then we don't want them to access this page. So let's bring in the user login. Actually, I'll just grab this and paste that in and change this to user login. And all I want from that is user info. And now in the use effect here, let's see, so we're going to check, we'll say if not user info, then we're going to want to redirect to slash login. Okay, and then we'll say else. We don't need redirect. So in the else here, I want to check for the user, which is coming from user details. So we'll say if not user, and we'll check for the name. So if not user name, if not username, then we're going to want to dispatch get user details, which remember takes in an ID, but in this case we're getting our profile, so we're going to pass in profile. That way in the action, in the user action here, get user details, profile gets passed in, so it's going to hit user/profile, not an actual user ID, because we want to get the logged in user. So that'll dispatch that, and then else, if we do have the user, then let's set the form field. So we'll say set name to user.name, and let's set email to user.email. We don't want to fill the password field, so just the name and email. Now down here, let's pass in dispatch here. So the submit handler, I'm just gonna, yeah, let's just get rid of this, because this is where we're gonna dispatch update profile. So we'll just put that there for now. And then this is going to be different because we're not using a form container. We're going to have two columns. So I do want all of this. So I basically want, yeah, I want everything that's in the form container except for this part down here. I want all these form fields. I also want the message, error, and so on. So I'm going to just cut that, and then let's get rid of this. And what we want to return is a row. And in that row, we're going to have a column. Let's say MD equals 3. So this will be the column where we want our form, and then we'll have a column for our orders. So this one will be MD 9. And for now, we'll just put an H2 and say my orders. And then up here, let's paste this in. And instead of sign up, we'll say user profile, and let's change the H1 to an H2. Okay, and then let's see, I just want to check. Yeah, so from user details, we're getting loading and error. And when we submit, we're going to check the confirm password, so that's where we would set the message. So we do want this message here. And then as far as the fields go, we have our name. I don't think we have to change anything here. We're going to set the name on change. Then we have our email address. Then we have our password and confirm password, and our button, instead of register, let's say update. All right, so I think we're good. Let's save this, see if we have any errors down here. No. And now we're going to go ahead and add this profile screen to app.js. So let's bring it in. And we're going to create a route for this. It's going to be /profile. Save that. And now if we go back and let's sign in, I'm going to sign in as John. And let's go to profile. So we can see the form. Now the form should be getting filled. So we can see over here user details, request, and success. And user is being filled here. And in our form, so we have name, the value we're setting to name, and let's see, so up here, so if there's no user, Then we're going to dispatch get user details, which then we're getting, this should come down through the state, the user, and we're setting name to user.name. So I'm not sure why it's not showing in the form. This should be getting filled. Link is defined but never used. Yeah, we can get rid of that. Why is that not being filled? So I just want to console log here, user.name. Okay, so that's not being fired off. And this React hook use effect has missing dependencies. Oh, wait a minute. Our use effect, we want to pass in user, because we want we want this to fire off whenever that changes. So let's save that, and now that's being filled. So we have the name, email address. We don't want to fill the password. We'll just, because we want to confirm and stuff. But yeah, so that looks good. So in the next video, I want to give functionality to this form, because right now when we submit, it's not doing anything right here. So this is where we want to dispatch to update our profile, but we have to add the update profile reducer, the action, and then we want to bring it in and dispatch it.